Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Sunday. Um, I apologize for not being here last week, but it was an example of sort of being overwhelmed. We had done a conference on holistic health and healing in Malibu, and that was quite a trip up there, a 3 hour trip up there, and an all day long thing, and a 3 hour trip back. We weren't going to get back until late that night. I hadn't completely finished this broadcast. I had collected all the pictures and was about halfway through because that week was a very busy week, and I was squeezed into trying to put this together between other things. So I figured I would just finish it when we returned on Saturday, but we didn't get back till late. I was exhausted, and when I tried to open the PowerPoint, it was bugged and weird, and we couldn't get it to work. Those, for me, are red flags, and I'm old enough now to realize that you listen to such things, that when the universe sort of throws blockages up, you back off and listen. So I decided to take care of myself and give myself a rest and cancel that day. It's apropos because, the whole conference that we did was me talking to people all day long about health and disease and what we're doing as far as using sound, a scientific version of sound to help with that. So then I come back and I'm getting all these red flags, and I'm thinking, I should be listening to myself and taking care of myself first. So that's the reason why we missed last weekend. In the meantime, this has been a period of having to explain and discuss what I personally am up to with the sound healing technology that I've been using for 40 years in a clinical practice with patients, seeing what kind of things work, what kinds of things don't work, developing an entire system of a scientific approach to healing using very precise sound frequencies. And I will discuss a bit of that today. I'm preparing for a big presentation on my work with stress-related disorders. In this case, I've been invited to give a presentation to the clinicians at the VA Center for combat veterans suffering from combat stress and PTSD. This has been a lifelong sort of task for me, being a military kid myself and having grown up in the military, and realizing we now have an all-volunteer military, not a draft military. So the people in the military are on purpose for all kinds of different reasons, but the big reason is because they're willing to give their lives for their country, to fight and die for an ideal that forms something that we all get to live in. Now, as fraught with human frailties as this system that we live in is, the point that I'm getting at is that the military are fighting and giving up their lives and being severely injured and coming back in bits and pieces, both in their physical bodies and in their minds. So my viewpoint of dealing with the underlying stress handling issues that get sort of blown away in PTSD and combat stress, once again, doesn't mean that I'm treating PTSD as a medical condition. It means that PTSD has certain underlying things going on that we see in all kinds of different stress-related conditions. A loss of integrity of neural processing and communication pathways, multiple cases of concussion, bomb blasts that knock you off your feet, that's a concussion. These guys have concussions in their organs and glands and body structures as well. Concussion has certain signs and symptoms that we have a good approach for. The stress handling system at the autonomic nervous system level has got its fuses completely blown. There are certain signs on HRV that show up that we have been able to help fix with sound waves, and we'll get into that a little bit. But this is an opportunity for me to finally be heard. I've been banging on that door now for 40 years to try to get somebody to listen to me about a more coherent approach to stress-related disorders like that, particularly for the military. In addition, I was just recently published in something called the Modern Pianist magazine. So there's a feature article about me in this magazine, and that's a new one for me also. To be recognized as a musician and a composer is new for me. Although I have a lot of albums on the market since 1986, they all have a scientific underpinning for achieving some very specific purpose. So there are albums for helping you get to sleep and for boosting your creativity and putting you into all kinds of various states of meditation and boosting psychic ability and on like that. And because of that, I'm sort of passed over and not looked upon as a musician and a composer. But when I approach composing music, I am a composer, I'm a musician, and I believe I'm a good one. The marketplace tells me so. People tell me so. But I've never received recognition for that, and this is the very first time that that's ever happened. So that's kind of a new experience for me. If in Austin may be able to place a link in chat for that article. I'm on page 50. All of that being said, it's good to be back. And today we're going to talk about the sort of the overriding big idea of health and disease, which essentially is multifaceted, but it has a core, which we'll try to burrow into. But the big idea is this concept of the internal physician, the physician inside of us, And the also another concept that I like here, that I call big picture medicine. Most of the medical profession is highly specialized, and then there's specialists within a specialty. Right? There is a kidney doctor, and there's a liver doctor, and there's a joint doctor, and there's an ear doctor, and an eye doctor, and a nose doctor, and the point that gets missed is the overriding big picture of health and disease, that all of these individual parts are just pieces of and coordinated into a massive network that is governed en masse with overriding principles of health and disease. So from that standpoint, and this is really a truly essential holistic idea, the idea of holism, that we look at the whole and we look for larger principles involved than the nitpicking little details of localized inflammation responses at a cell level in your elbow. So that's sort of where we're going with this. There are systems within systems within systems of control. There's cellular systems that have sort of an automatic response to things. There are systems that control large cellular groups, like control organs and glands and biochemistry in general, and hormone levels in general. And way out here at the top is central command, the central organizing factor under the hood in the brain that tells all these other systems what they're supposed to be doing and coordinates all these systems together under a master big picture control. That I like to call big picture medicine. The number one thing that is missing from modern medicine approach. And though all of us in the holistic professions shy away from the word medicine, medicine is been commandeered by the pharmaceutical industries to be attached in its meaning to a pill. And that was never its use throughout all of history, back to thousands and thousands of years in every culture on the planet. Medicine was the word that meant the healing principles of an approach. It didn't mean a pill. It meant an approach. So holistic medicine would not be talking about a holistic pill. It would be talking about a holistic approach to looking at things and dealing with things. So from that standpoint, you could talk about acupuncture medicine and chiropractic medicine and energy work medicine and Reiki medicine. The American Indians referred this concept of medicine that way. So when I talk about big picture medicine, I'm talking about a new viewpoint of health and disease that is beyond the nitpicking details of individual little tiny systems that you develop a pill to silence their symptoms, which is different. Silencing symptoms is not healing. Silencing symptoms is good when you're suffering, and there's no reason for you to suffer, because we're now on the business of trying to find out and untangle how come you've got these symptoms, and we're going to be working on that. So there's no reason to have the smoke alarm going off the whole time that you're trying to fix the system. it goes off, it gets your attention, you start working on the thing, you can silence the smoke alarm. That's where modern medicine comes in really well. You don't want to take these medications that silence symptoms for too long, or you get new alarms going off and new symptoms, new problems start to arise if you take these little pills for too long, because they're not a solution to your problem. They're artificially silencing, which have their own consequences that cascade out into your system. It really boils down to this, that the ultimate chiropractic idea, the power that made the body heals the body. B.J. Plummer is the one who started chiropractic back in 1895. B.J. Plummer was what was called a magnetic healer. Now, back in those days, that meant that he was talking about animal magnetism, which was the early days references to hypnosis, this idea of being able to hypnotize somebody and awaken powers in them that they had inherently, but they couldn't get in touch with until you, quote, hypnotize this part out of the way to reveal this part with all kinds of amazing things that could happen. There was also the use of magnets back in those days, which was, looked upon as something absolutely amazing and magical, because modern science didn't have really an explanation of what the hell was going on. So the next time, you start to drift in your understanding about the unseen forces of the universe, grab a couple of magnets and stick them together, or take the same poles so you can feel the pressure between them repelling. Many systems in your body work this way. Electromagnetic system, like just about every single system in your body is electromagnetic in some way. It's pretty easy to see that the nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord and the nerve roots, that's electromagnetic. There's ions flowing, electricity flowing through this system, right? Got to turn my phone down here. So that's pretty obvious that there's an electromagnetic system of ions flowing, and as soon as you have electricity passing through a wire, you've got magnetic fields at right angle to that. So you've got biomagnetic fields. There are some people who can see these fields. Their nervous systems are sensitive enough. They're sort of born that way to be able to see it beyond extended ranges in their vision. Some people can feel those fields, they can't see them. But those fields are there just the same. And we have also fields coming from the electromagnetic energy moving through the acupuncture meridians, the so-called chi energy. And when you look at the meridians are not technically physical. These meridian lines that run up and down your body and around your head and up and down your arms and legs, those meridian lines of chi flow are electromagnetic energy flowing. And you can measure it with a skin resistance meter. You can see if the system is conductive or not conductive. The meridian lines are potential spaces with lowered resistance to electrical flow, and those potential spaces of lowered resistance go along in lines of lowered resistance throughout your body, superficially and deep. And so if electricity is going to pass anywhere, it's going to seek the path of least resistance. So the meridian, all 12 meridians show the paths of least resistance to electrical flow that somehow the Chinese figured out. And each of these lines is associated with an organ or a gland function. So there's a liver meridian and a kidney meridian and a stomach meridian. 12 pairs on either side of the body. Then there are 8 extra meridians that don't have a pair. And all of those meridians communicate to the surface of the skin with a series of points, hundreds of these little points on the skin, which are basically areas of possible lowered skin resistance to electrical flow to suck more electromagnetic energy from the universe into the meridians to top them up if they need extra energy for healing. So essentially, if your kidneys get weak, the kidney meridian will become involved, and the kidney meridian will begin to intentionally lower the skin resistance of selective points on the surface of your skin along the kidney meridian line in order to pull more electromagnetic energy from the universe into the meridian to top it up and give it extra energy to heal the kidney with. The needle idea is a highly conductive metal, silver, gold, now it's stainless steel, highly conductive to electromagnetic magnetic flow, and you're going to stick that needle through the insulation layer of the skin so you don't short out on the universe, and pierce through the insulation layer down into the conductive layer underneath. And now the needle becomes an antenna, like a television antenna, that focuses and draws more energy into the point. You're just trying to aid the body in what it's already trying to do. And you can measure those points with a skin conduction meter, special meters made for this purpose in the acupuncture profession. For me, I was doing it with magnets. I was taping a positive field magnet over the point, like a trickle charge, because the positive pole of the magnet extrudes energy. The negative side of the magnet pulls energy in, so there's a vortex. And if I put the positive field of the magnet over the point, it's spewing electromagnetic energy or magnetic energy into the point. And you can't separate the two. Electromagnetism. I could also do it with the sound wave. And how I was determining which frequencies to use was using an advanced form of muscle testing called applied kinesiology. Now, I did a whole broadcast on applied kinesiology in a 3-part series called Esoteric Anatomy, part 1, 2, and 3. I also did another 2-part on applied kinesiology itself called AK in the original broadcast 3 years ago. In the hands of a professional, applied kinesiology is a powerful tool. You can use stress responses in the body. When the body goes under stress, the muscles get weak. So you can start testing the body to see if you can get a weak muscle. You're asking the body what it knows is wrong with it. That's another discussion. But you're tapping into this principle. The body knows what's wrong with itself on every level you can imagine. When you have a tool like muscle testing that can monitor stress responses, you're now in a position to ask the body yes and no questions. For instance, you can have a person touch on an acupuncture point, and the question is there a problem with this point? If the answer is yes, all the muscles get weak because the body's having a stress response. Why? Because when I touch this point, signals are firing from the skin on my chest and my fingertip into my brain. New information. Is this a threat? Is this good, neutral, or bad? The body is always analyzing everything that way. That's why I've got 5 senses stuck into the world, to monitor the world to see if I'm being threatened. So, what the heck is this? Is this a threat? What's down there? Oh, there's muscle, blood, skin, and there's an acupuncture point actually right there. And when I pop up the display board in my brain under the hood and look at what's there, I see a red flag flashing next to the acupuncture point because the acupuncture point has dropped its skin resistance to pull extra energy in because I've got some problem. So yeah, this is a point under stress. This is a point that's activated. That's a red flag. What's going on? Why is that happening? And when the body has a stress response, then all the muscles get weak because it's concentrating here and not on the muscle. Now you've got a positive reading. Yeah, this point's active. So let's put a magnet on it and fix it. Let's dig deeper. What is that point? Oh, it's the alarm point for the kidney meridian. Oh, interesting. Let's check out the point that governs the entire kidney meridian and test that. Put your finger on that one and see if the muscle gets weak. And if it does, put a magnet there. Or start tuning sound frequencies until the weak muscle gets strong. You just neutralize the stress response by giving the body what it needs. That cancels out its stress. It doesn't have to be stressed anymore because you just fixed it. The early days of my sound healing technique, biotuning, for a decade, that's how I use sound in a clinical practice with patients. To determine all kinds of things. You can do emotional testing with that, and beyond. But this concept of the power that made the body heals the body is the central concept of holistic health, and it gets close to the big picture idea that I talked about a second ago. The big picture medicine. Big picture medicine. And the big picture is that someplace inside of each of us is a organic biological intelligence that knows how to grow your body out of 2 cells, differentiate the tissues into everything you are, and manage it and run it and coordinate it and synchronize it and send signals out to rebuild body tissues, healing you on a million levels every minute of every day, holding the system together. Right? And someplace down in there is the consciousness that knows how to not only read that blueprint, but to design the blueprint itself. Someone in the deepest part and the deepest region of your soul designed the entire universe and everything in it, and designed the self-organizing principles of life that takes component parts and builds them into things that are living and grow, and design the DNA structure of the blueprint of a perfectly functioning body. And that part is deep down inside of you and me and everyone. It's the self-organizing principle that is constantly holding it together and rebuilding it and balancing it and coordinating and synchronizing the whole works so that I can be alive and thriving and healthy. That's the master healing principle, the highest holistic idea of all. That when I'm sick and when I'm ill, it's not a big mystery. It's not that this illness has arrived from Venus and has landed on my body, and we have to use heroic means to kill it with special drugs and medications and surgeries. It arises within me. It's an imbalance, a functional imbalance within me, because for some reason, the self-organizing healing principle within me is being blocked from doing its work. As I said before, I mean, this magic act of I cut myself with a knife and this magic thing starts to happen. The blood stops by itself. It heals up by itself, forms a scab. The scab drops off. I've got a little white line there for the rest of my life. But what the heck just happened there? Some self-organizing principle was in charge of that thing that just happened. And the essence of that self-healing and self-restoring principle is the guiding big mind principle that designed this body and is governing in it right now, this very second, on a million different levels of healing, of all kinds of things and all kinds of self-organizing and synchronizing, and that thing is going on all the time. So if I'm getting sick and I've got all kinds of symptoms, then it's not doing that job for some reason. You know, if I cut myself and it didn't stop bleeding, what the heck? Why isn't it doing its thing? Right? Or that's essentially the same question of why I'm sick. How come it's not doing its thing? This thing that it just kind of does under the hood that I don't have to think about. When it's not doing that anymore, all of a sudden I notice that something's happening. And the underlying principle is that something is blocking that thing. This is the essence of the holistic idea, that the symptoms are there to gain our attention, to dig deeper into the system to find out why those symptoms would be there. Symptom itself, where it's popping up in your body, doesn't necessarily have to do with the cause of what made that symptom pop up at some point, right? So I gave this an example in a previous broadcast a few years ago. This concept of Joe Schmo comes into your office with a knee problem. And you're saying, well, okay, did you injure your knee? What happened to your knee? No, it just started going bad. I don't know what happened. Just kind of came out of nowhere, right? And so that divides, health and healing into two major categories. Did your symptoms arise from the inside out without an event? And the other category is, I got hit by a truck, and yeah, that easily explains why my knee has exploded. Right. So external events that impact me, that now the system has to right itself and heal. And in some of those cases, it's beyond the inner body's ability to do it by itself because external influence. By being hit by a truck, you've got broken bones and somebody's going to have to help set those bones. But when it's from the inside out, it's imbalances arising in the body that are causing other systems to get involved to help and recruit, and pretty soon symptoms start to pop up. So back to the guy with the knee. Did you have x-rays of the knee? Is there anything weird in there? Yeah, I had x-rays. Nothing's weird in there. So they sent me to a physical therapist. They told me to do some exercise. So exercises make it worse. Now I'm here with you. So I'm going to do some physical testing on the knee. I'm going to see if the knee is misaligned as a chiropractor. I'm going to see if I'm going to test all the muscles that wrap around the knee that help hold the joint together. I'm going to isolate the muscle out of its group and test each one separately to see if it's blown. That's applied kinesiology. If it's blown, it's because the meridian that controls that muscle has got its fuse that controls the muscle blown. So I can put a magnet on there and now the muscle's strong. Or I could influence the point with the sound wave, or a laser beam. So now that I've fixed the muscle and the knee is held solid, there's no more pain. But the question arises, why was the muscle weak? What made the muscle weak? What meridian is the muscle controlled by? And when I tested all the muscles, I found out the quadriceps was weak. That's the muscle in the front of your thigh that runs over the knee. Quadriceps is weak. Front part of the knee joint is hanging slightly loose because that muscle's not there to hold it. It's rattling around, creating inflammation and pain. I fixed the muscle. Now it's held tightly. All of that goes away. Why is the muscle weak? It's on the small intestine meridian. I wonder if the small intestine meridian has got a problem. So let's go to the alarm point, the test point that tests the whole meridian, and have them touch that point and see if the muscle gets weak. And if it does, put a little magnet on there. Now you've sort of hot wired the circuit so it's all intact again. Energy's flowing. But the big question is, why did the circuit breaker point for the small intestine meridian get weak? You think there might be some problem with the small intestine? So you ask, have you had any intestinal issues? I mean, gas or bloating or indigestion or anything like that, or pain in your gut? And they look at you like you're a madman. They're going, how could you possibly know that? I came in with a knee. I didn't tell you about my gut problem. And that was my practice every day for 40 years. That kind of Sherlock Holmes kind of tracing it back to his origin. And now the question is, how come you've got a small intestine problem? Why isn't the small intestine being managed properly? What's going on? Now, so for some people, it could be an emotional issue. Some people twist their handkerchief. Some people twist their gut. Emotional trauma that got unresolved. Well, the unresolved emotional trauma is like the cut on your arm that doesn't heal. How come the internal system of healing didn't heal that emotion when it got traumatized? How come it didn't heal that? How come it stuffed it in the basement of my subconscious mind? Because it couldn't deal with it right now. It couldn't deal with it right now because the internal physician program is offline for some reason. Now we're getting somewhere. Everything heals. Your body heals, your heart heals, the mind heals, wounds heal, your soul repairs itself. Your happiness is always going to come back. This master internal process of the heart and soul of healing, why does it get blocked? What causes it to get blocked? And what can you do about it when you find that it is blocked? The big mind under the hood, who's designed the entire system and makes it run, who monitors every part of your body and sends signals back out to keep them in balance and harmony, is the self-organizing principle of healing in the system. It's the same system that was there from the very beginning. It's the same system that knows how to grow your body out of 2 cells and differentiate it into what you are. Grow you from 2 cells into a fetus and pop that fetus out and become you as you are now as an adult. But whoever you think you are as an adult, deep down under the hood, you are still this person. This person that woke up in the void, in the womb, for the very first time, before thought and before language, and had a sense of, here I am. Where am I? Who am I? Without words. This evolutionary growth of the fetus as the brain and the nervous system begin to form themselves and differentiate all these different little parts that grow out. Who's doing that? Who's making all this stuff happen? It's mind-blowing. It's from 2 cells dividing and dividing and dividing until it forms these weird structures that start to have form. Obviously, they're following some blueprint pattern. Somebody's reading that blueprint and growing this system out. Here, at 16 to 24 weeks, this zone right here is between 16 and 24 weeks that all 5 senses come online for the first time. But you know, you're in the dark and your eyes are closed, so you're not seeing anything. Your nose and mouth are filled with fluid, amniotic fluid. You're floating in fluid. So no taste and no smell. Sound travels through water 5 times better than air, so my whole experience for 9 months is a sound vibrational experience. I'm hearing things, I'm feeling vibration through the fluid. We're all baptized by sound and vibration for 9 months. We all come from that. Very first thing you ever experience is consciousness waking up in the void, and then sound and vibration. And only in the later part of the third trimester, when the belly is stretched enough that light can actually filter through, that then there was light. But the self-organizing principle that knows how to do this is the same part that knows how to heal your body and heal a cut in your hand and organize all your systems in your body and make them work properly. For what lies inside the human being is the whole spiritual cosmos in condensed form. In our inner organism, we have an image of the entire cosmos. Rudolf Steiner, if you don't know who that is, look him up. It's bigger than just me, because if I dig down deep enough in myself, I find the self-organizing principle of my own localized consciousness that can grow this system from 2 cells, differentiate everything, and then govern it and heal it. If I was able to penetrate deeper into my localized deep unconscious mind, I would break through into a collective unconscious mind that knows how to grow a planetary ecosystem that my body grows out of. And deeper into that, I would be able to penetrate into a solar system level that knows how to grow a planet that grows my body out of. Deeper into that system is a galactic level of consciousness, or a universal cosmic level of consciousness. Deeper and deeper into the basement of the grander and grander collective unconscious that forms all of reality. It's poking that with a stick, that level of the collective unconscious, that these whole broadcasts are all about. That the concept of taking localized consciousnesses and aligning them all together with science, a brainwave entrainment experience where all brainwaves and state of consciousness go to exactly the same place, gives us a possibility of penetrating through local unconscious minds into a bigger collective unconscious mind that creates a deeper level of reality that we're all here together experiencing. The system is designed to heal. And when I'm sick, it's because that system is being blocked. But basically, when it's not blocked and I'm living in a perfect state of health, if you can imagine a world that's not all screwed up like the world that we're in, but a world that opened like a flower in its natural state, without human beings creating artificial organized man-made systems that corrupt the natural environment and destroy it. That if we lived in perfect harmony with nature, the way that this intelligence inside of your body that designed you, if it was in charge designing communities, which is what we see in indigenous people. We have family, we have communities. Those communities get to a certain size and stabilize there. Tribes. Other people have other tribes. Tribes know each other. They meet each other. They're friends with each other. They trade with each other. But they have respect of each other's space and boundaries. But the natural evolution of the divine influence that can design the blueprint of my body and govern its differentiation into all the parts that I am and make them run on automatic and heal them, that part of me knows the true inner purpose of why you're doing all of this in the first place. You're doing it to open up the deepest part of experience and understanding at a collective unconscious level that connects directly to the heart of the universe. My purpose for being here, Why am I alive? Why have I been created? What is this huge, amazing, mind-blowing mystery of the web of life, universe-wide, in the cosmos that I'm a part of? That's my birthright, is to open deeper and deeper levels of that understanding. And have that understanding not be just me, but be me and those I love and my friends and my community and my planet of all living creatures that are beyond just human beings. All brothers and sisters in life in a massive symbiotic community where we all deeply depend upon one another. That part is what humanity has lost. And when we've lost that connection in the universe at large, when we've lost the connection of the creatures right outside my window, right outside my door, I've lost that. Remember, the universe is an external projection of my own consciousness. Like our collective unconscious is broadcasting, projecting something about our deep part into the world. So the world we're experiencing is us. That we have to change something in us in order to change the projection that's coming out from us in this world. It's possible to do. There's power in numbers. And that's why this is a grand sort of scientific, spiritual experiment to see if we can use the ancient knowledge combined with quantum physics to shift the quantum field and change reality itself and bring us back closer to this idea of how we exist in the universe, how we exist with each other, and how we exist with the world of which we are a part. Your body's ability to heal is greater than anyone has permitted you to believe, particularly the medical profession. Like, I remember in the Heal documentary that I was part of, there was a medical doctor in that Heal documentary who said, you know, nobody ever told us in medical school that there were inherent healing properties in the body. This concept that the body has a pot that is designed to heal itself was never mentioned. The body is a stupid lump of meat that we have to do the stuff for it. But getting in touch with that life essence, the essence of healing in my physical, emotional, mental, spiritual bodies is really what it's all about. Treading the thin line, the meditative line of keeping your yin-yang balance in the center. A zero stress place where all the doors and windows are open to your deepest part. You feel safe and you feel like you can throw your arms open and embrace the universe without fear. Look to the nervous system as the key to maximum health. And it wasn't just Galen that said that back in the 1500s. It was Tesla that said that. Some of the finest minds in the world have said that. Because this brain and nervous system network is the physical representation of the core of the physical place where this sort of divine wisdom resides that knows how to grow the body out of two cells and differentiate the tissues and then run it and heal it. Deep inside the most amazing structure in the universe, the brain, there's a place, the physical XYZ coordinate spot in the physical universe where the metaphysical universe meets the physical universe with the cosmic knowledge of how to make a universe and make a body in that universe touches the physical body. It's here. It's this little triangular pyramid of Cheops zone in the center of the brain, called the hypothalamus. That's where the master control system resides, in here. And when you blow that up, it's here's the pons medulla cerebellum is here, upper brainstem area. This structure here that's wrapping around, that's the hippocampus. And the amygdala is right here. That's the pituitary hanging from a stalk. That's the hypothalamus. Inside there is the autonomic nervous system, the master control system that tells all systems what to do. Hardwired into the pituitary gland, hardwired into the emotional control systems, hippocampus and amygdala. That means that my emotional states have direct hardwired access to the master control system that tells all organs and glands and biochemistry in my body what to do. So don't tell me that emotions can't cause physical sickness, physical symptoms. Emotions could be the origin. Here's the hypothalamus. Here's the pituitary hanging down from it. Here's the pineal gland back here. And so if we blow up the hypothalamus, we've got all these little organelles inside. For many of you, this is not new information. I've covered this a number of times before. But the anterior hypothalamus, right here, this little zone, this little organelle right here, is the core master control of the entire system. It's the origin of the parasympathetic nervous system. The posterior hypothalamus back here, this area is the origin of the sympathetic nervous system. So parasympathetic, sympathetic, these two form the autonomic nervous system that tells all systems what to do. Sympathetic, the fight or flight response. Parasympathetic governs the digest and relax and detox response. Fibers from this neuron exit out into the upper brainstem and exit out here from the brainstem as the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve comes down and innervates the heart, the lungs, all the organs, the gut. And there's a right one and a left one. The vagus nerve is the key to the whole process. The vagus nerve drives the system. The parasympathetic controls the system. When I have a fight or flight response, the parasympathetic turns off and the sympathetic turns on by default. So it's sort of a seesaw. So hanging down from the hypothalamus is the pituitary, which has an anterior and a posterior lobe. One is a biochemical lobe, and one is a neurological lobe. Governs the neurology, governs the biochemistry, the two major control systems in the body, biochemistry and neurology. But it's the pituitary gland that sends hormones out to target each of the endocrine glands in the body and tells them what to do and when to turn on. So the pituitary is the conductor of the orchestra, and the orchestra is all the glands below the neck. Thyroid, thymus, adrenals, gonads, pancreas. They're turned on by hormones from the pituitary. When they turn on, they have an instant effect on the body with their hormone. But it's the hypothalamus and the autonomic nervous system that is telling this what to do. The vagus nerve is telling all the organs what to do. Now we have all biochemistry, all neurology, all the glands, and the vagus nerve, all the organs. And the pituitary coming down has all these different hormones that tell each of the glands what to do. And the glands are intimately tied into all the chakras. So each of the chakras has a gland that goes with it, and it's innervated through the sympathetic chain. So the sympathetic comes out from the spine through the nerve roots into the sympathetic chain, out from the sympathetic chain into postganglionic neurons. And the postganglionic neuron bundle is where the nerve comes out at the end. It goes to the gland. That means that each chakra has a spinal level, a postganglionic neuron, and a zone in the sympathetic chain that is highly physically specific to a chakra. Each chakra is also linked into the acupuncture system. There are 7 highly specific acupuncture points that goes with each of the glands and is contributory to the balance and the function of the chakras. In the ancient texts, they talk about Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. Sushumna is the central channel up through the center of the spinal cord. The vital forces flowing up the spinal cord into the brain. The Ida and Pingala weave back and forth across the Sushumna, and this is the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. Ida, Pingala, Sushumna. And these crossover energy patterns, you can see that every place they cross over forms a vortex, an ethereal vortex of the chakra itself. Now, I had a whole broad live stream on the chakras, a 3-part series on the chakras. To get into this information in extreme detail. The third part of that was all about the brow chakra and the crown chakra. There you see Ida and Pingala and Sushumna. Then we spin out from that with the 7 chakras and all the auxiliary harmonic chakras that show up in all kinds of other places in the body. These auxiliary chakras. And then in the crown chakra, we have auxiliary chakras that are harmonic chakras that spin higher and higher, more and more refined. But we have this extremely complex energy field network called the nadis. Too complex to discuss here right now. But at its core is this pyramid structure in the center of the brain, which organizes all of it, the physical and the metaphysical and the mental, emotional, and physical and spiritual, all self-organized from this one place. Our own private pyramid of Cheops in the center of our brain. And we can measure it on a special device called heart rate variability. Now, we have a unique, patented, super high-level heart rate variability that no one else in the world has got. It's part of our, quote, claim to fame. Because heart rate variability is the gold standard in medicine for analyzing the autonomic nervous system function, master control system, and measuring how capable that system is of handling stress, with a recognition that stress is the ultimate cause of all disease. That's not just me that says that. That is standard edict worldwide in the scientific and medical community. They don't toot that horn a lot because they don't have an answer to what to do about it. So it's sort of stuffed on the shelf and nobody pays attention. Heart rate variability in the medical profession is a sort of a snapshot system. It does 5 minutes of measurements, pops up screens for you to see. It's essentially interested only in a small portion of what it can show. Its uncanny ability to accurately measure your current state of health and the possibility of your death by heart attack in particular, but any disease process. It's very accurate. That's why it's the gold standard. But what it's really looking at is high HRV versus low HRV. And heart rate variability is a measurement of the space between each heartbeat in microseconds. The international standard says you need to take 190 heartbeats as a minimum to get a proper bell curve that everybody can agree on is the baseline that for research. So 190 heartbeats, all slightly different. The space between each heartbeat is slightly different. And the more different they are, the more healthy you are. The more variable. That's why it's called heart rate variability. The more variable the space is, the more healthy you are. The more metronome-like and exactly the same, the more that becomes a very accurate predictor of death by heart attack, or death by any means of any kind of disease process that there is, except heart attack is the biggest killer, so everybody pays attention there. There are more billing codes there. More people die of heart attacks. So that gets the lion's share of the attention. But what we developed was a real-time system that doesn't stop after 5 minutes. It keeps going. And now we can see the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Blue is sympathetic. Green is parasympathetic. And we can see them live as this screen moves forward and is animated. Blue is sympathetic, green is parasympathetic. These are frequency bandwidths in hertz in the heart. Vibrations, electromagnetic vibrations in the heart. And by analyzing them, we can see what the autonomic nervous system is doing directly. We're interested in the sympathetic parasympathetic because we're looking for this point right here, which is zero stress in the system. Total, complete balance at the master control system that tells all systems what to do. It's called homeostasis. This. So when we hook a person up with some wrist sensors and we do an analysis and those screens pop up, when we lay you on your back, gravity stress should have the sympathetic a little bit on. Gravity's pulling the blood out of my head, so sympathetic's a little bit on. And that should collapse down to 0 in 3 minutes if you lie on your back. If it doesn't, if it's still on after 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, that's clinical proof that you have a runaway fight or flight response. The problem with that is that if the sympathetic is on all the time, then I never achieve homeostasis, which is zero stress in the system, and is a requirement for the internal physician to be online, managing all my systems and healing me. So if I'm running a stress response all the time, that is why that's the ultimate cause of disease, because internal physician program is being blocked. It can't engage. It can't manage my organs, my glands, my biochemistry, my meridians, my chakras. It can't manage any of those systems. So those systems are working from their best recollection of how they're supposed to be functioning, but nobody's minding the store. And they all start to eventually drift in their function with each other and get more and more inefficient and more not working properly. And that pops up symptoms. Alarms are going off to gain my attention to please do something. Something's going on down here that's wrong. And what does a medical professional do? Give you a pill to silence those symptoms so you can't hear them anymore, without doing anything about what's going on underneath the hood, why the symptom is there. It's a wrong way of looking how the system works and what you should do about it. So from this standpoint, if I see in a measurement that after 5 minutes, this sympathetic is on and this is not happening, then we can push the reset button and make this happen with a precisely tuned sound frequency. And that's called biotuning. Tuning the biological system back to zero. And once you've got a frequency that will make this happen, and that frequency is accurate to a couple of decimal points, then magic happens in the brain and the entire body. When homeostasis is achieved, and I reach my zero stress point in the system, and the zero stress point means I'm in my safe place, that has a deep effect on me. It releases all kinds of feel-good hormones, reward hormones, dopamine and serotonin and endorphins flood my system. Homeostasis is a prerequisite for being able to meditate. If my survival needs aren't met and I'm I'm not in my safe place, how am I supposed to meditate? How am I supposed to gain access to my creative juices? Civilization itself arises from survival needs are met. That my survival needs are met. Now all the doors and windows can open. I can gain access to my creative self, to my visions, to my imagination, to art, to music, right? To the finer things of civilization itself. The flowering of the enlightenment of the civilization came from that zone. Otherwise, I'm an animal fighting for my life. And all other considerations are like off the table. There's bigger fish to fry when you think about the ability to achieve homeostasis in the system, where all systems balance out, and the master control system, the internal physician program, is back online managing all my systems and rebalancing them all and healing me from the inside out, and working on a massive list that it has to accomplish because it's been abandoned for a long time. At the final place of that road, after the systems have been rebalanced and the healing has taken place, now I'm back on the doorstep of where I should have been all along. Why am I here? What am I here for? What's my connection to the cosmos? A requirement for those questions to be asked or answered is homeostasis in the system, zero stress in the system, survival needs being met. I'm in my safe place, and I can feel free and comfortable to open my doors and windows and get the answers to the cosmic questions of my life. So when we go back and we find this frequency, let's say that the frequency that balances your nervous system is this frequency, and every frequency has a musical notation. 266.24 hertz is C on the keyboard plus 30 cents. That's because we can tune between any two notes on a piano keyboard by 100 steps with a digital readout. So there's 100 steps between C and C sharp. C plus 30 steps out of 100 sharp is 266.24 hertz. If we calculate all the octaves of that, that's what these are. divide this in half, divide that in half, divide that in half. Now we're in acoustic physics. This is the law of octaves. Every octave also works to cause homeostasis in the autonomic nervous system. I ping the wine glass and sing that note, any octave with that note makes the wine glass vibrate. So in your body, these lower octaves are the ones playing through the sound chair that activates the vibration sense network. And the sound chair is divided right-left stereo like the headphones, so it all hangs together properly. Particularly because we're using binaural beats, two tones slightly out of tune, where one ear can't hear what the other one is hearing, so it forces synchronicity of the hemispheres. If we've got headphones for your body and a sound chair divided down the middle, this half of your body's got one frequency, this has the other, and it forces the neurons in the brainstem for vibration sense processing to synchronize it as well. Now we have this here, we have this here, and we have this here by default. Every time we do something like this and make the system more efficient, we get reward neurochemicals. Right? The two laws of the body: survive at all costs, do no self-harm, get as most work with the least amount of energy expended, be ecological, right? It's a subset of rule 2 that when we do all this kind of stuff and rebalance the autonomic nervous system, we're helping the body achieve rule number 2. And whenever you do something that helps the body be better and be more efficient and get more work with the least amount of energy expended, life energy, then it rewards you with neurochemical reward chemicals, dopamine and serotonin and endorphins, all the good stuff. If you go deeper and deeper and deeper into the system, synchronizing and coordinating, then you get deeper levels of rewards, enlightenment, answers to the big cosmic questions, emotional activating biochemistry that is esoteric, that causes levels of understanding that is impossible to describe with the small mind to another person. But as you can see, if we divide these out, anything below 20 hertz is now brain frequencies. So now we've got beta, alpha, theta, delta, epsilon, default mode network, gamma. And those brain frequency states of consciousness are precise and exact to a couple of decimal points. We just found combination locks that unlock homeostasis in consciousness and are reflected in the HRV screen. So, right, we can just use binaural beats set to one of these octave brain states and train you to that state and cause homeostasis in the autonomic nervous system on a computer screen with no sound playing through the sound chair, proving that picking the lock of a specific neuroprogram in beta, alpha, theta, delta causes healing. That means that we can direct where the healing is going to go using brainwave entrainment in a clinical application. So now we've got a precise alpha brain entrainment state that causes homeostasis, turns on the healing program for my mind, theta for my emotions, delta for my physical body, epsilon for my metaphysical body, gamma for my grand binding of all my sense organs and a wireless network in the brain, default mode network, my basic sense of self in time and space. Deep stuff. So that's how we're using this split down the middle design for a sound chair or a sound table, split down the middle, right, left, separated like headphones for the body, activating the vibration sense network, which is 4 skin sensors, sensitive to different vibrational frequency ranges. And among all 4, the frequency range is 0.3 to 500 hertz. That's what the chair is there to deliver through this vibration sense network in the brainstem, the posterior spinal tracts, this purple one here, posterior spinal tracts or vibration sense tracts up the right left spine into these neurons called nucleus cuneatus and gracilis, which is where they 80% cross over to the other side up into the thalamus, out into the cortex. We cause these neurons on the right and left side to synchronize across the midline with binaural beats when we have the sound table, sound chair divided right-left stereo separation, the same way that we've got headphones, force the right-left hemispheres to synchronize. But as you can see, below 20 hertz, we have brain frequencies. And as time has gone on over the last 40 years, we've discovered more and more and more brain frequencies based on research papers being published in PubMed articles that nobody else seems to be paying attention to. 21 different brain states is what we work with at this point. The borderline between beta and alpha is a brain state of its own, associated with high IQ prodigy kids. The borderline state between alpha and theta, that's somewhere between 7 and 8 hertz, depending on which textbook you read, but that's the zone of the Schumann resonance. That's the place that research reports show is the zone, the flow state. Theta delta, this bridge state, is where long-term memory and learning reside. Delta epsilon, this is where the place between the physical and the metaphysical reside. It's where I get a glimpse into the metaphysical meaning for all my symptoms that my physical body is expressing. And on and on. That's a whole other sort of talk to give, which I have covered in other live streams. This concept of using binaural beats to entrain the brain and synchronize the hemispheres is really what we're up to, where the sound table chair is split down the middle. The right side and the left side of the sound table or sound chair is delivering binaural beats that's causing synchronicity across the midline. The headphones and light glasses, we're seeing what we're hearing, what we're feeling is the big idea here. To resynchronize the three primary perceptual modes of the brain, of how it gathers information. Using science and technology of the deepest states of reorganizing and resynchronizing of the system using sound waves. That is biotuning. And biotuning has these three different phases. The healing phase is number one, to get you straightened out. The enhancing phase, like the Superman phase, is to maximize your abilities, maximize your IQ, maximize your creativity, maximize your flow state, maximize learning and memory abilities, make them superhuman. And phase three is outright high-tech science of consciousness expansion. High-tech meditation based on research of high-degree meditative states, what happens in the brain, what happens in the nervous system, and people who can go there, and then train your brain and your nervous system to exactly the same picture as meditation training wheels. That's a visceral experience, direct, instead of somebody trying to explain to you how to meditate. All of it to help us get back to the part of our experience with nature that we lost. It wasn't we lost it, we walked away from it. The forest spoke to my soul in a language I already knew, a distant lullaby from the womb of peace and solitude. Back to this place in yourself. This place. This is what it's really all about. at the heart and soul of waking up, to the deepest place you can wake up, is joy and happiness. You and the cosmos, you and the people you love. This is why we're here. This is what we're searching for. Joy, peace, harmony, love. That's what it's all about. This is what we're trying to get back. Through the science of activation and rebalancing of all of my core systems to their zero stress place, where all my doors and windows open wide, and I get to be back in the folded arms of the cosmos, the universe that's here to nurture me and take care of me, to foster my progress, to open the doors for me, turn the lights green, introduce me to just the people I need to know, to further my spiritual progress. That's the kind of world that I want. And that's the reason why we're here, is to help push that idea for each of us individually and for the global whole that we're a part of. The world that we are in can't be separated from my personal experience of joy and happiness and peace and prosperity and health and healing. It's all part of the same matrix. So we need to change us and change the world at the same time. That's why we have the headphones. That's why we do this thing every Sunday. So follow me and put your headphones on. And here we go. thank you all for being here again. I'm going to leave the chat open for a little bit longer, and then we should all move over to the Discord channel to continue whatever conversations we're having, so we don't have to tie up this space. Thank you all again for being part of this with me. My great joy and honor and pleasure to be here with you. So until next week, I'll see you next Sunday.